Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Lisa Mattias. I'm the Vice President of Capacity Building and Innovation at the Information and Communications Technology Council. ICTC is a neutral, not-for-profit national center of expertise, and we're focused on advancing Canada's digital economy by supporting businesses and business leaders with tools, skills, talent, and support they need for innovation and competitiveness. We're funded by the Government of Canada, and our goal for over 30 years has been to help Canadians use technology to drive economic growth. Today, we're continuing our online generative AI training series with AI for talent management and productivity, presented by ICTC in collaboration with Microsoft. The workforce is rapidly evolving, and AI is playing an increasingly critical role in talent management. From streamlining recruitment to enhancing employee development and engagement, AI-driven solutions are transforming how organizations attract, retain, and upskill their workforce. In today's session, we're going to explore how AI can support talent acquisition, workforce planning, and productivity while fostering inclusive and adaptable workplaces. You'll gain insights into the latest workforce trends, the importance of upskilling, and strategies to future-proof your business in a changing job market. I'm thrilled to introduce you now to today's trainer, Sunny Wang, who's the National Co-Pilot Lead for Microsoft Canada, who will guide us through the session today. Over to you, Sunny.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for another session of our SMB AI series. This time, we are going to be talking about talent management and AI upskilling specifically for Canadian small to medium businesses. I'm Sunny. I'm joining you again based out of Canada, and I'm part of the Skilling AI Skills for Social Impact team here at Microsoft. So a couple of things just to level set in terms of what we're going to cover today. When we go through the series, we've heard a lot of feedback from SMBs and SMEs about the need to actually develop, curate, and hire for AI talent within your organizations. We're actually going to break the agenda down today into three core parts. The first one being strategies for how to best leverage AI in terms of talent, bringing it into your company, so acquisition, developing the people you already have employed within your businesses, that's being development, and then retention of high skills talent, whether it be through AI, through technology, and so forth, to further enhance your workforce from a productivity perspective. That'll be the first pillar of this presentation. We are also going to talk about the variety of AI resources that are available to support your skilling and reskilling initiatives, because that is something that is asked very often is, where do I go? Where can I get started? So we're going to also cover that as well. And then the third thing is really starting to talk about other potential ways in which AI can start to improve your workforce, creating more flexible, engaging, and productive environments, whether you work in any industry or any size of organization. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully today is going to be helpful for you. And I encourage you to think about these points and pillars in the context of your business and the industry in which you specifically operate today. A couple of things to talk about as well in terms of AI at work. As we speak to you currently in 2025, there's a couple of really key things to keep in note. So 5 things. Number 1, we are in what we consider the second inning of generative AI. The first inning was back in 2023 with the launch of ChatGPT, the proliferation of generative AI tools at work, as well as in our personal lives. But since then, we really have noticed that AI engineering skills, specifically prompt engineering skills, so this is not your traditional going to PhD, getting a PhD to learn computer science. This is really your ability to work with and interact with large language models. This has really taken off, both in terms of personal usage of these consumer AI apps and how people start to use tools like Copilot and ChatGPT in their work as well. Number 3 is most of us will see a shift in terms of the critical skills that are at play at work, meaning that we have our job descriptions, we have the roles that need to be done in order to run our businesses, but we're seeing a slight change in that in terms of the things that we are hiring for and the things that we're looking for, specifically in terms of these new emerging skills like generative AI working and prompting. And number 4 is a lot of employers, including many of you who hire and employ small to medium employees in your businesses are interested in AI, but a little bit hesitant, primarily because the number one thing I hear of in my work is how am I going to upskill my workforce? How are we going to meet people where they are? So that's something that we hear quite a bit in terms of where we are today in the second inning. And then finally, number five is really maximizing the benefit of AI requires skilling. There's really no question about that. You have the tools. Many of us know that technology is really only as good as the people who work and operate with it. And that has been the case since the advent of the PC, since we moved to mobile phones, applications, software in the cloud, and now we are here at generative AI. But many, many times you've noticed that people who know how to use large language models and AI really see benefit from that, but others who may not and may struggle will not. And so all five of these components are making up what we really are at today in terms of the current stage of AI. And our discussion today is really going to center around tactical tips, how you can help your people, and also how you can reach number five, which is maximizing that benefit. Something you may be aware of is that Microsoft actually has a partnership and owns LinkedIn. LinkedIn being a social networking platform, a social business platform for people to post jobs, to find new roles, to also understand where work is at, where industries are at. It's a really, really powerful skill. The benefit of LinkedIn being part of the Microsoft family is that LinkedIn captures a ton of data globally around what we consider the future of work. And so, for example, when jobs are being posted and descriptions are being mentioned, when people are making posts or following or engaging with certain pieces of content, Microsoft is actually able to amalgamate that at a global level and work with LinkedIn to produce things like the Future of Work report. And so this was a most recent Future of Work report taken in 2022 and 2023. But as you can see, one of the main things that we are actually calling out and seeing is the shifting of skills. And so, in the most recent report, which you can visit, we'll add a URL into the chat or into this presentation, is that there's a 9% increase in the number of LinkedIn members who've added AI skills to their biographies since 2016. And this is all roles, all titles, all levels of seniority. This is something we've noticed in general in terms of the members who have profiles on LinkedIn. There's also been, since that time period, a 21-time increase in job postings that mention AI or generative AI. Now, keep in mind, if you were to go to LinkedIn and search for roles, this is not just roles that are like AI engineering or data science. These are all types of roles: marketing, communications, human resources management. Many of them mention technology fluency or AI fluency as a key requirement, even to go for those generic line of business roles, as we call them. And so that is also notable as well. And this is since 2016. And then lastly, we've noticed that 84% of the share of LinkedIn members have at least a quarter of their skills listed on their profile. Those are actually going to be impacted by AI and by the advent of generative AI. How do we know that? There was actually a huge economic study done in partnership with LinkedIn through something called the Economic Graph Study. So there's our institute. You can take a look at the research. And what the research does a really good job of is actually look at, well, of all of the roles that are available on LinkedIn and broadly within the Canadian economy, what can we notice in terms of what AI will disrupt, which roles will be impacted, and which ones may be augmented or even insulated? Keeping in mind, all roles can be augmented by AI. I think that's something that we know for a fact. But there are certain roles that, because of what they do, so if you look at the bottom right-hand quadrant, things like administrative assistant or translator, we know that generative AI tools have a really strong potential to take up a bulk of the work when it comes to a lot of these tasks. Not to say we're not going to have translators. I think the human in the loop is still super important. But having roles that are only centered around that may be something that a lot of businesses will look at AI for, and this is a trend we're going to see both now and in the future. Versus if you look at the right-hand side, the left-hand side or the top right, the augmented or insulated, you notice that there are certain roles, for example, marketing manager, data analyst, consultant, event manager, for example, or even in healthcare, there's a ton of roles that we've identified through this research that will probably not be touched, or if anything, will be augmented through AI. But the key thing in augmentation is, again, number five, your ability to actually make the most of these tools by upskilling your people, making sure they get access to a lot of these things so that they cannot be disrupted as heavily as the other roles that we've identified as well. And so all of this is research that is publicly available. would highly recommend you take a look at it and map it to different roles and opportunities that you're either having within your business or you're looking to hire for. And from there, we'll actually jump into, well, how do you now get to the point where your people are being augmented using a lot of these capabilities? The second piece of this presentation, pillar two, is really about the actual tangible pieces of hiring and upskilling. And so let's actually start to talk about some of these pieces. You're probably in your mind thinking about your own business and thinking about, well, this individual or these folks or the people I'm about to hire for, how do I actually get them up to speed? Another piece of conversation I've heard of in my day to day life working with small to medium businesses is asking, well, how are my talent strategies going to change? For example, based on LinkedIn research, we've actually found that in the last 5 years, there's been a 3-time increase in the amount of members with the title head of AI in their biography. And so this could be an explicit AI role. So they are literally chief AI officer, or it could be you are the chief financial officer, you are the head of talent, and you also have AI as a subtitle being part of your core responsibilities at work. This is a trend we've seen broadly speaking across Canada and is something that's going to continue. We've also noticed in the last 8 years a 300% plus increase in the hiring for technical AI talent. And this could be from a developer perspective, if you're a business that has apps, websites, products that are delivered online or virtual. Or it could just be you could have a manufacturing business or a healthcare business, but you're hiring talent that has the ability to do things like prompt engineering, data science, and so forth. And so part of it is that, of course, when you look at your whole workforce, not everybody can be an AI engineer with a PhD graduated from a very technical school. The truth is, majority of this shift in AI is really from the non-technical workers, from the base that makes up the majority of your organization. And so, to give you an example, a lot of that 300% of the new hires that now have AI have actually been people who've added AI aptitudes to their profile. So things like using ChatGPT, knowledge of Copilot, for example, we've seen a 142% or 142 time increase in the last 6 months of that alone. And so, keeping that in mind, we're not just talking about new people, we're talking about people who've been able to adapt their skills, embrace these tools, adding these capabilities to their profiles. That's really what stood out in terms of a lot of this research. And similarly, think of the most augmented or impacted roles within AI. Remember that quadrant? Content writers, translators, adding AI to their profiles. We've seen a third or about 33% of that increase as well. And so we know that people in the middle are moving and hiring managers are moving as well, right? So a couple more statistics that I'm actually going to talk about what you can do about it. Over 66% of leaders would consider AI skills in terms of hiring. So you're actually scanning and screening for that. You're including it in your job descriptions. And over 25% of businesses actually plan to offer generative AI training this year. I'm actually going to hone in on that point with the training, because a lot of the resources that are available are actually free and public to you on the internet. I'm going to talk about Microsoft specific resources, but if you were to go to a search engine and just search for prompt engineering training or generative AI courses, you'll actually find a wealth of resources available to you without having to pay anything. So as a result, it's really a no-brainer, right? You know that you need to move the middle, you know that you need to get people up to speed. And so start thinking about where your workforce is actually at, whether you've actually factored AI into your hiring and in your skilling plans. And if you don't have a development plan for your employees, now is really the time to think about that. We particularly care about this at Microsoft. So at Microsoft, we have this perspective that skills are really for everybody, including AI skills. We actually do think that there is a huge opportunity here for AI to unlock for every learner, every employee, every student across Canada, whether it be at certain roles, seniority, or even jurisdiction within our country. And so we are part of the puzzle. There's also many other providers that are thinking about this and that have resources for this. And so you are at the right place. And I'm about to show you a little bit more about where you can start to think, as well as build a framework for your talent. So that brings me to the third pillar, which is how do you actually start to think about strategies and frameworks for AI talent creation? Let's actually talk about the research we've done and what I've seen many other businesses and leaders use when it comes to building up this framework. So our framework for AI skilling is really 5 pieces. I won't talk about everything here, but you will have these slides to access after as well as this recording. And so start to apply your business in terms of this context of building these critical AI skills at every step. We start at the bottom. in terms of understanding. And so forget the type of role, forget the seniority or function. I think there's an opportunity for everybody within your business to start to understand AI more generally, understand technology, and become more technology literate at a base level. And so, what items here is really thinking about AI literacy, responsible AI, what is generative AI? So, for all professionals, having that fluency and awareness, that's really making up the base. Most organizations will start here at the bottom. The second tier is really about applying it. And so this is really the question of, well, how do we incorporate this into our business? What are the certain roles that are potentially more impactful or could benefit a little bit more from AI than others? Most businesses at this point in the second wave are really here. And so we're thinking about the business plan, we're thinking about the ROI. There's other sessions in the series that will talk about building the business case. So I encourage you to take a look at those recordings and webinars. But generally speaking, whether you're a leader, a manager, professional, making sure that people are actually learning prompt engineering, they're getting access to different co-pilot tools and actually putting it into their work, whether programming, writing, developing, or otherwise. That's really the second tier. The third, fourth, and fifth tier is for businesses that are more advanced. And so think about your business, think about how far you want to go for AI, whether your vision is everybody having their own co-pilot or everybody, even certain tasks being completely automated. I think everyone has certain levels of comfort, depending on industry, depending on regulation, to actually make that decision. So think about that in the context of your business. The third tier is when businesses start to think about building AI into your services. And so if you have a product, if you deliver services to your end customers, for example, think of a consulting firm, for example, or a healthcare practice, we have a lot of businesses in Canada that are thinking about incorporating AI into their own applications using things like pair coding. So Copilot, GitHub Copilot, having an AI assistant in every line of code, writing that for you, or even incorporating AI capabilities like summarization or Copilot in your app. A lot of businesses are also here when it comes to value creation. And then 4 or 5, some businesses are thinking about training their own language models. So if you work in healthcare, having a healthcare specific language model built on your own data could actually be a source of IP as well as a source of competitive advantage. That being said, not all businesses have the skills or resources to do that. So that's an option for folks who are or potentially are interested. These are things like building ML models, deep learning, teaching and training your own tools, data science, for example. And so that's an area of expertise that you can also look at. And then the deep specialization is actually building out teams of R&D, machine learning, ML ops, for example. And I've listed all of the featured skills that we typically see and businesses will recruit for. Depending on your segment, this might be of interest for you as well. And so, what are some opportunities for you to actually hire and screen for specialized talent? Screening for talent comes at the very start. And so, you are a business owner, you're thinking about upskilling your workforce, and now you're thinking about, well, how can I actually hire? There's a couple of things to think about here that I would like to introduce. So, number one, a lot of new graduates coming out of certain programs, target programs, are really good when it comes to specific skills. For example, you can screen for graduates from an AI program or a machine learning and data science program from a certain university. That's pretty standard, and you know that that talent is available to you and ready to enter the workforce. But there's also other indicators as well of whether a new person or a new hire could have these skills that you're looking for. And so LinkedIn is a great resource, right? Highly recommend it. People have the ability to add skills and resources to their actual biography. And as a recruiter, you can search for and scan for certain things, like, for example, cybersecurity or prompt engineering, and have a filter of different candidates who are open to work who actually have those things and have passed those certifications. There's also courses that Microsoft offers that come with certification exams. So think of it as a sort of other way for people to learn these skills and get credentialed. We call these things like SC900 for security or PL900, which is a Power Platform certification. To actually pass, you have to take multiple hours of study and actually write your exam and get a passing score in order to get the certification. So it's quite rigorous. And this sort of certification is available to anybody within Canada. So, screening for those, having a section in your application process that asks for featured skills, asks for certifications from Microsoft, for example, or other providers, is a really great way to test for whether your candidates actually have the skills that they're looking for. And that's also an indication of, I think, growth mindset and the ability to upskill themselves. And so that is something to call out. There's over 100, 200 Microsoft certifications from a variety of ranges of skill. And for AI, over 3/4 of them are actually what we consider intermediate or advanced courses. And so, equivalent to or similar to what you would get in a basic level undergraduate course or master's course. And so, definitely look for those when it comes to the people that you're actually hiring for. Similarly, let's talk about what you need to do for the people within your business as well. There's also a lot of conversation happening about what we call a learning based culture. And so, are you giving your employees time, perhaps once a week, once a month, to actually spend time not on their day to day, but on learning? At Microsoft, we actually spend dedicated focus time on skilling. There's required courses that every employee needs to take every single month with specific deadlines. And we're actually encouraged every 2 weeks to block off Fridays to spend on things like upskilling on AI, on data, on cybersecurity, and so forth. And so, for the people within your business, are you carving out that time? That's something to think about as well in terms of a habit change and a policy change, even within your own workforces. Some really good resources you can see listed on the right hand side. There's free courses online through LinkedIn Learning and Microsoft Learn. What is generative AI? The evolution of AI, responsible AI for business leaders, for example. There's a variety of modules that are available today, over 20 plus resources and courses on responsible and ethical AI, as well as 40 plus courses on LinkedIn alone that are just dedicated to business strategy for leaders. And so, if you wanted to get credentialed, if you'd like to spend more time or even enroll your entire C suite in any of these courses, you can actually do so today at no additional cost. And so, these are some of the recommended paths that I would consider looking at. And again, training is only as good as the time that's allocated for it. We don't want your people to spend time on weekends, potentially away from their family, to spend to learn and spend time on this. And so, being intentional about carving out time is also a really great strategy to build more of a learning based culture. And so you're hiring people into your business, right, who have these skills, but you're also lifting the capability of your workforce as well. And so these are all things that we're hearing. And of course, you have Microsoft and you have partners in the marketplace today who can actually help you build a plan towards these pieces. When it comes to function, I also encourage small to medium businesses and leaders to think about these skills to be developed in house. And so there's not, I don't have this in the slide, but there's typically a framework of skills that are compatible with each other. For example, if you went to school for computer science, prompt engineering and model training is probably a more tangential or accessible skill to you than if you went to school for, let's say, producing. For producing, there might be other tangential skills. And so we think about skilling in that aspect of what is the second most or accessible piece. But of course, generative AI is something for everybody. And so splitting into three pillars, think about the business skills that need to be developed. If you have students or new grads coming into your workforce, how can you better equip them with skills like leadership, management, business software tools like Microsoft Office so that they can be ready and trained in terms of up leveling to the next level? Think about function specific skills. And so recruiting and L&D, there's so much opportunity for AI within that function, whether it's writing job descriptions, sourcing candidates, performance reviews, and so forth. And so how can you then tag on AI skills to those functions? And when you hire people into those functions or build them out, how can you up level them at the same time? And so that's also going to be very critical. And then the third piece, of course, technology skills. I think this is broadly applicable to everybody. Some folks in your user base may not touch technology all the time, but we all agree that literacy in terms of development, AI, using Office, for example, is pretty important. And as you think about filling those gaps, who are the people within your functions that are most inclined or most equipped to also pick up a new skill as well? So I'll give you an example. Maybe folks within product management having more of a technical background are really going to be your go-tos for data science and IT, just as an example. Right? We have a lot of businesses that are making those decisions. It might be also more affordable to upskill your people rather than hire someone net new. And so these are all things that I'd encourage you to think about as you start to build out your strategy and plan for upskilling your actual workforce. Couple more things than factors. And so this is a global organization that I built an example for, but you can think about the context of your business as well in terms of different questions you may want to ask. And so, backing all the way up, before you even take a step forward and start recommending courses, what are you trying to accomplish here, right? What is the vision for your business when it comes to building these AI capabilities? Are you hiring? Is it going to be functional specific, job specific? What is your North Star? And so, 4 questions you may want to ask. Number one, what sort of industry requirements do I need to adhere to when it comes to adopting AI? For example, I bring this up again and again. Healthcare organizations have specific regulatory constraints that others may not, and so make sure you're aware of that and you go in eyes wide open, and you're building a strategy around those pieces specific to Canada, specific to your jurisdiction. Number two, what are the specific job functions I'm meaning to target? Is it everybody getting a co-pilot? That's awesome, and that's totally valid. Or are you looking to specifically equip sales or specifically equip marketing, for example? And so that's a question you need to ask yourself in terms of who is really going to get started, who are my champions within my business to really move this forward. Job level. Are you focusing on your executives because they are your champions within the business and the role model for all of your other employees? Are you looking at upskilling aspiring managers, so people who are raising their hand and saying, hey, I need more opportunity, I need more potential, and I want to go to the next level? Are you upskilling your board, your managers, your new hires? Who are you going to target? And then finally, specific skills. So, what do you want to give your people access to? Is it free tools like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT? Is it consumer tools? Is it specific to your industry tools? You need to make those decisions. All 4 of those things should also come into your plan as well as you build out your strategy. And so that segues really well into actually adopting these general purpose tools. So let's talk about this piece. How do you actually incorporate these tools? Now that you know how to build a plan and you know where to go in terms of your strategy and targeting, how do you actually make this real for your business? At Microsoft, we often coach our larger clients and enterprise customers on breaking down your business into both universal tasks and department level KPIs. And so this may be more specific than necessary, but again, it's a helpful framework to note when you think about how this actually applies. What are the universal tasks that everybody within your company does? It might be writing emails. It might be making sense of data. It might be creating content if you're more of a startup looking to grow your base of users or customers. And so, depending on that, that is a huge area of potential to actually build specific skills like email management using AI. That's one way to start. Within each department, you also have KPIs that, with or without AI, your people are expected to deliver. And so, if it's customer service, customer success, a certain amount of calls, a certain amount of ratings in terms of satisfaction, those things are not going to change. But we're flipping the paradigm and saying, well, how can, for example, a faster response time using AI generated notes provide customers with a better experience? How can we contribute to a higher CSAT score or a higher approval rating, for example, for our customer support reps? And so converting this as well can be your North Star for each department as you try to figure out where, who, and what tools get given to each of these departments when it comes to AI. One good one to start with is potentially Microsoft Copilot. And so you're here, we know that Microsoft has and is an AI company, but we actually provide you a free tool called Copilot Chat. The URL is m365copilot.com. And this chat is a perfect tool for SMBs and SMEs because A, it's free. B, it's secure. So the data is not saved. It doesn't go to train the model. You can actually upload confidential business data, and all of it is saved and retained within your Microsoft environment. So the environment of your Office data and your SharePoint data, for example. And that does not go out to actually OpenAI or the internet as well. And so we consider this to be the golden standard of ways to use language models in terms of small to medium enterprises at no cost, so very affordable. And some prompts to really try, well, there's a variety of them. So think back to that slide of the what are those skills and tasks that everybody does? Help me write. Develop issues about expert topic. What did folks say? Revise this content, for example. These are all prompts that you can put in at the start that can really make everybody's life easier, free up time, and get them more familiar with this idea of prompt engineering. We're building from the bottom and up-leveling the skills from the most basic to the more advanced. These are also some really great resources for you in terms of your own upskilling strategy. So, in addition to Copilot, Microsoft provides access to things like upskilling content mapping. So, which specific resources map well to the competencies and questions that I provided you earlier. There's a practical guide to AI adoption for business leaders. We have frameworks, all of the frameworks I just talked about. You can scan the QR code and access it here as well. And then, of course, LinkedIn Learning. I'd be remiss to say there's actually a lot of free courses on LinkedIn today. If you're not a member, you can actually have your people make an account, create a profile, and log into LinkedIn, and then just search for things like generative AI, AI and security, administrative management for M365. There's all of these different titles. We provide a lot of resources for you at no additional cost for free. And so these are resources for you to take advantage of, in addition to giving your people free tools like Copilot so that they can actually play around with, get a little bit more familiar with AI, and also be more comfortable as well. I think all of that is really key to adoption. As we move towards the end of this presentation, there's just a couple more pieces I'd like to talk about, specifically around adoption, enablement, and change management. And so at Microsoft, we hear a lot from businesses of, I have the resources, I have the people, and I have the tools available to them, but there's a bit of resistance when it comes to their comfort level with AI, as an example. I know that for a lot of users and employees, something that's very top of mind is, well, is it going to take my job? How is it going to impact me? And those fears are fair, I would say. It's the same that we hear when any new technology is adopted, whether it was mobile, whether it was the Office apps, and then of course now with Copilot and AI. And so, as you think about your skilling strategy, you also should think about the way in which you want to introduce these concepts to your business. Having an intentional way and strategy to do this is actually very recommended. And so, from a leadership perspective, do you have executive sponsors? Think of those very influential, very vocal people within your business, within each department. Maybe it's your executives, maybe it's your co founder, or maybe it's your board, for example, who can speak to AI in a way that others will actually listen. Having them on board is really step one. Strategy, aligning AI to that. We've talked extensively about that today. Super critical, that's without being said, but also providing clarity to your business. When people come and ask questions like, is this going to take my job? What are we looking to achieve? Making sure that you are able to respond and say, well, this is not going to replace jobs. This is an augmentation tool. This is to make you faster, more productive, to increase your skills and build these competencies. Having that talk track is super critical from a leadership perspective. And so a way you can do that is to have like a steering committee or a skilling committee or council, for example. These are just some samples of what you can think about. Scenarios, we talked about this, right? So planning, making sure you know which areas need to apply, which tools need to go for each function. We won't spend too much time on that. And then enablement. And so onboarding materials, resources, time to actually skill, and then check-ins, getting feedback from them of what's working, what isn't working. All of those steps, when had in tandem and employed in tandem, can actually help your people get a little bit more comfortable and know that, yes, leadership is sanctioning and approving of this use. Yes, I am being rewarded and acknowledged for learning these new things, and that these are things that are actually important to me and to the business. And so I would be remiss if I weren't to talk about adoption as well as you think about this strategy. And so, community of practice is a really great way. We also call this center of excellence. We call this skilling councils, adoption committees. There's a number of different names that you might search for online. Again, a lot of documents online as well for how do you build this. But you can have even as simple as a Teams community. And so, having a group chat or a WhatsApp group where people are posting about what they're doing, learning about AI. Hey, I read this article. Did you know about this? Or our competitor is using this. How can we do the same? Building that environment of upskilling and excellence is really important when it comes to sustainability for this as well. We don't want AI skilling to be a one and done. You're not just going to hire good talent and then let them sort of languish within your business. You need to continually push your people and build that culture of excellence. And a community of practice is a really great way to do that. We have resources available to you as well. We can also link in the chat, but this is something to really end on as you think about, well, what's the immediate next step for me coming out of this session? Last of all, we have a one-stop shop for you when it comes to all of your needs, at least specific to Copilot. But Copilot as well can also be synonymous with generative AI and language models. And so adoption.microsoft.com, if you follow this URL, you can find a ton of resources for you, whether it be training, product announcements, functional and role-specific prompts. It's all on here. And so it's a really great place for you to start, and it's free. So feel free to take a look, download the email templates, download the PowerPoint decks, and change it for yourself. Please take a look at this as a really great resource, in addition to the many others that I've shared. And then finally, external assistance is also powerful. And so when I talk with a lot of SMEs, I know that you all have day jobs. This is something you may be doing on the side of your desk. You may not have yet an AI adoption manager or a training specialist hired to do this full time. That's totally okay. But Microsoft provides a lot of free resources for you and also paid for you to actually get let's say, an advisor or consultant to come in to build this plan for you. For example, if you're a small to medium business in Canada with more than 150 employees and 150 seats of even Office.com or others, you can actually leverage a program called Microsoft Fast Track. And Fast Track is free. You can give them a call, send them an email, create a ticket, and somebody from the Fast Track engineering team will actually respond to you and help you with a rollout plan for any number of technologies, including Copilot. If you would like more assistance, you can also visit the forums. So we have communities of SMEs around Canada who are all going through the same journey as you. You can ask them questions, learn from them. That's all part of the journey. And of course, last of all, you can also engage a full Microsoft partner. So think of like a training partner or a Copilot partner that can help you build an end-to-end plan. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced or want more robustness in terms of the strategy, you can also go there as well. So there's 3 different tiers as you start to build out this AI journey within your business. And so to really wrap up, join the community. This is the perfect time to really get started. And this QR code will take you to the SMB community for Copilot, where others will talk about similar contexts like we just talked about today. So calls, how do you upskill your people, hiring tips, for example. All of this is really, really powerful. And then finally, please visit the AI Skills Navigator. In fact, I also encourage you to give this tool to everybody within your business, because we really do know that AI presents a ton of opportunity, but it's up to us as business leaders to really specify that and break that down so that everybody can be included. And so these are all amazing resources, but really the change starts with you. And so with that, thanks so much for spending the time with us today. Hopefully this was a helpful session to learn about AI and talent within your business. And as well, we will leave a list of all of the resources at the end. And so again, thanks so much for your time. And we're here to answer any questions if needed.
Well, thank you for joining us today for this training session on leveraging AI for talent management and workforce productivity. I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did. We invite you to continue your learning journey by registering for the next session in this training series. And that's going to be AI for customer engagement, boost retention and sales, taking place on May 22nd. I also invite you to scan the QR code on your screen to register for our next session and sign up for our free training initiative for business leaders in collaboration with Microsoft. This initiative is helping Canadian small and medium-sized businesses gain the skills and knowledge needed to harness the benefits of generative AI to help improve productivity, streamline operations, and drive growth. We look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thanks for joining.